Hi. Today I'd like to talk some about desires. And desires are not at all the same as addictions. In that addictions, as I talked before, addictions are always a way to avoid our feelings. And desires are the complete opposite. Desires are our emotions and our feelings. That's where our desires come from. And that's the basic difference. And the other thing we can confuse desires with is reasoning. We can reason things intellectually, come to a place where we think it's best for us to do something. That's not a desire either. And we do those things, certainly. I do. I have a lot. And in my life, I have tended to bury desires, and that's what we do with addictions. We play out our lives with these addictions, and they do not allow, in that our addictions are in place of us feeling our emotions. We can't come to our true desires unless we feel our emotions. Our emotions are our soul, are directly connected to our soul, or that's where the emotions come from, what our soul does. So I have effectively blocked a lot of those desires throughout my life. Now, I didn't block them all. Some I maintained. And one that I had a strong desire when I the second work that I did, and I loved it. I really loved it, and I did have a desire to continue doing it. I did do it for quite a number of years, and it was set up in that I could have continued to do it, but a lot of other things happened to me during that time, and I was responding a lot to what I think I should be doing, rather than what my emotions were telling me what my desires were. So I was doing things in that work that along those lines, and it just couldn't continue. I couldn't keep doing it because I wasn't accessing my pure desires. Now, I don't know how it would have went. If I had of, it would have been completely different. And I don't dwell on that. But that's one way that intellectualizing gets in the way of our desires. Intellectualizing can certainly be an addiction if it's taken the place of our feelings. And I think now, I feel that if we could access those true desires throughout our life, if we can act on them and just continue to act on them, then we would grow quite quickly in our soulful experience. We tend to think that we have to buckle down and we have to come to a rational place where we, particularly in our work, where we think we have to. Not everyone. I think there is some people that do have a strong desire for what they do, and they're very, very effective and do their work very, very well. And I think it is there for each of us to be able to do that. We can't just snap our fingers and do that, but it takes a certain amount of faith, and faith in ourselves, for one thing, faith in that we can grow and learn and be fulfilled by what is inside us, what our soul is driving us to do. Now, I think that, and I can feel that in some things to a small degree, but I certainly have not lived my life that way. I just think it is possible to live one's life that way. It's possible, and there's lots of things that get in the way of that. And those are a lot of the things that I'm talking about. What does get in the way of that? It has a lot to do with trust. And if we can trust ourselves, if we can trust our soul, then we are really trusting in God. So the soul is our connection to God, and we will, in that way, we can live under His roof. We can accept what He has to give us. And if we're not trusting in ourselves and in God, then we just go down a different path, and we feel that we can't trust. I'm just developing this trust. I certainly don't have it in spades, but I do recognize it, and in this process that I'm going through, I think it will just grow. That trust will grow. That faith will grow, and slowly, likely, but that's it's better than no growth. And I think we tend to feel that our desires cannot get us there. But if it's a true desire, and it's not, I think a true desire will be in harmony with our soul and God, and it will be a loving action. If it isn't, if it has a sense of, if there is some addiction there, or we're pushing it somehow, we're pushing it in a way that is not loving, then of course it doesn't have that loving aspect. But I think with desire, you don't have to push. You don't have to push it. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to make a plan for it. Desire doesn't come with a plan. That's like doing these videos. I just have a desire to do them. It makes no sense that I'm doing them, but I still have the desire. The thing is to not, with a desire, is to not to be concerned about what's going to happen with it. The concern, the worry, will lessen it. But if you can just have that desire and act on it, then you will know if it's loving or not. You can tell. You can tell by your actions if it's loving or not. So there's not really a worry about our desires being destructive, because they won't be. They really won't be. You do have to come to trust your real feelings inside, and to to come to God, I think. I think you can get a long ways in a rational way. It's just hard to picture that as a desire. Hard to feel that as a desire. I have done some things that in a highly intellectual way. One thing I did was when my children were coming, well, before that, but when they were born, I very quickly realized that I did not want to send them to school. I did not have the desire to send them to school, and we did not send them to school. And at one point, the school board contacted me and I'm wondering if they were truant. And from that, I wrote this too long treatise about what I felt about that. And it was a purely intellectual experiment. And I just read them not too long ago. And I just recognized then, like last week when I read them, how intellectual it was, how far away I was from my emotion. But it was clear, it was concise, it was strong, it was well written, and without saying to the school board, your school sucks, it was just in what I had said. They had a series of principles written out, like 12 principles or something of what school did, and I just went through each one and I just described it, and I described how that would work in a home. And in my description, it was just a better place really than in a school atmosphere for that to work well. So I didn't talk about the school at all. I just took their principles and applied it to what could happen in a home. It all was not happening. But I was just saying the ideal place for this to happen is in the home, in a loving home. But I just had a strong desire to do that, and I did it, even though it was quite intellectual. So it can get you there, and then our actions were more based on what I was feeling and what I felt was right to do. And actually, reading that came from a desire of mine. I have lots of things in my life. We're sitting in our barn, and there's a baler sitting right there, and lots of things that a lot of it I don't use anymore. And I just want to organize and clean out and just kind of direct things that are just kind of overflowing. And I know I want to do that, but I didn't have the desire to do that. I don't like doing it if I don't have the desire. But a couple of weeks ago, I did have the desire to start cleaning out some cupboards, and I cleaned out a lot of photography stuff I've had. But I found some things I had written, and I had found those things I had written to the school board. So from that desire, I just got to that place where I read that, and I understood how intellectual I was and how much I am changing and having a connection to my soul. And it's pretty dry intellectual life I can see looking back on my past and how I was. It's a pretty dry existence, and I mean, there's lots of things to talk about in that existence. different people have different interests, and it might be their desire to study that and to look into it, and that's a great thing. That's how we humans expand ourselves and grow. And certainly I use intellectual means in things I do. But now I'm just coming to more recognize the existence of my soul and the importance of my soul, and wanting to having a desire to feel my desires. And seeing things that I thought I desired going by the wayside. And sometimes that's a little scary when when I'm not desiring to work like I used to. And then, of course, you have all the anxieties and the worry about what's going to happen in the future. Well, those anxieties and worries are addictions. They're not real. They're things that I put in place to stop me from feeling the fear. It'd be better if I just felt the fear. So that's one desire I have now, is to access that fear, to feel that fear. I say that, but that I have the desire and I want to, but I also realized the other day that I also have to be honest. Do I really want to feel that fear? And I don't. I do and I don't. I can say I do, but I have to be honest and say, do I want to feel it? But that's an interesting process, in that when you get to that honesty, then you are, even though you're saying I don't want to feel it, you are accessing it and starting to feel it. So we can deceive ourselves, and I'm sure I do. Where else do I deceive myself? I don't know, because I'm in deception of it. But to always, or to recognize that I might be in deception of it, and I may be deceiving myself in areas that I don't know. And it's only going to be helpful if I can recognize and admit and that those things could be or are happening. So that's a little bit about desires and my process. And I thank you for listening.